The move had been planned for 6 weeks. Lorraine was 67. The house was too large. The new apartment was 20 minutes closer to Keith, and Eve had taken a Friday off work to help because that was what Eve did. She was the reliable one. The one who showed up with the right size boxes and knew how to wrap glassware and didn't need to be asked twice about anything. The house had 31 years of weight in it. Every drawer required a decision. Eve moved through the rooms methodically while her mother supervised from doorways. And by early afternoon, they had made real progress, and Lorraine had made tea, and the day felt like the kind of day that is simply a day, physical, practical, complete in itself. Then Eve picked up the box from the top shelf of the hall closet. It was a medium-sized plastic storage container, the kind sold specifically for this purpose. Someone had covered the side in strips of masking tape labeled in Lorraine's handwriting, the neat, slightly leftward script Eve had known her whole life. 3 strips, 3 names, Keith, Maureen. Eve picked up the box before she finished reading and already knew. She opened it anyway. Keith's section first, report cards going back to 2nd grade, organized by year, held with a rubber band that had been replaced at some point because the original would have perished. Certificates from middle school, a photograph of him at his high school graduation that Eve also attended, standing in the same sun, wearing a similar expression of relief. Maureen's section. Certificates, photographs, a small envelope labeled first haircut in the same handwriting. A birthday card Maureen had made at age 7, crayon on construction paper, that Lorraine had saved for 60 years inside a plastic sleeve. Eve's name was on none of it. She went through twice, not frantically, carefully, the way you recheck something you already know the answer to because the mind requires the second pass before it will accept. Report cards, Keith and Maureen. Photographs, Keith and Maureen. Milestones, certificates, artifacts of childhood, kept with deliberate care, Keith and Maureen. Eve had report cards, she had certificates, she had milestones, she had been present at her own childhood. None of it was here. Lorraine called from the kitchen about the dish towels, which pile, keep, or donate, and Eve closed the lid. She carried the box to the truck, set it in the designated corner with the other labeled containers, went back inside and told her mother to keep the dish towels, that you always need more than you think. She made tea at noon. She finished the bedroom closet in the afternoon. She drove home at 6 and hugged her mother at the door and said to call if anything needed adjusting once she was settled. She drove home with the radio on and both hands on the wheel. The week after, she ran through the explanations, a second box somewhere. Things lost in a previous move. They'd moved twice before the house. A misunderstanding about the system of organization. While she ran through them, that none of them were real. The box was too complete, too deliberate. The rubber bands replaced. The plastic sleeves. The first haircut envelope with its careful label. You don't accidentally omit one child across 30 years of careful keeping. You make decisions repeatedly, and the decisions accumulate into a record. Eve understood this. She sat with it. She found herself one evening pulling a folder from the kitchen drawer, her daughter Rosa's drawings, accumulated over years, stuffed in without system. She sat at the table and spread them out. Rosa was 9. There were drawings from when she was 4, 5, 6. Crayon animals, family portraits where everyone had circular heads and visible teeth, a horse that Rosa had been very proud of and that Eve had thought to keep. She got a box, a medium-sized one, the kind sold for this purpose. She began organizing by year. She found a label maker and made tabs. She worked quietly for an hour while Rosa watched something in the next room unaware. It wasn't a performance. There was no one to perform for. It was just a thing Eve understood she was doing, building something she had not been given, making it available to someone who would not have to go looking for it later on a shelf in a hall closet. She didn't think about her mother while she did it, or she did, but distantly, the way you think about weather in another city. Lorraine called 2 weeks after the move to say the apartment was coming together and thank you. Really, she couldn't have done it without Eve. Eve said you're welcome and meant it. She held the question she had been shaping for 2 weeks, had it right there, formed and ready. She held it through the whole call. She held it past the natural moment to ask it and then past the next one. Then Lorraine said she should let her go. And Eve said, okay, talk soon. She set the phone down. The question is still there. She may ask it someday. She may not. What she has slowly come to understand is that the answer, whatever it is, whatever her mother would say, is not the thing she actually needs. What she needs, she is building in her own house on a Tuesday night with a label maker in a box and a folder full of crayon horses. That's the work she's doing. That's the one she can control.